ओके, वी आर लाईव्ह नाव.
थँक्यू. नमस्कार मंडळी, मी उल्का नगरकर, महाराष्ट्र मंडळ शिकागो 2022 चे अध्यक्ष तुमच्या सगळ्यांचं आजच्या इतिहास मंच या सेशन मध्ये स्वागत करते. माधव दादा, आय थिंक तुम्ही स्क्रीन शेअर करताय. 1-2 मिनिटासाठी थांबाल का?
ओके ओके.
या, थँक्यू माधव दादा. नमस्कार मंडळी, मी उल्का नगरकर, महाराष्ट्र मंडळ शिकागो 2022 चे अध्यक्ष तुमचं सगळ्यांचं आजच्या इतिहास मंच या सेशन मध्ये स्वागत करते. आपण मागच्या वर्षीपासून हा उपक्रम सुरू केलेला आहे. दर आठवड्याला शुक्रवारी रात्री 8 वाजता आपला इतिहास मंच असतो. तिथे आपण आपले शिकागोतले लोकल हिस्टोरियन्स किंवा आपण भारतातनं किंवा इतर विविध देशांमधून वेगवेगळे इतिहास तज्ज्ञ आपण या मंचावर घेऊन येतो आणि आपण त्यांची व्याख्यान ऐकतो. तसेच आज एक व्याख्याते आपल्याला लाभलेले आहेत. तर मी इतिहास मंचचे ऍडमिन आणि आपले एक इसी लिएजान माधवदादा गोगावले यांना विनंती करते की त्यांनी या सत्राची सूत्र आपल्या हाती घ्यावी. धन्यवाद.
थँक्यू उल्का. नमस्कार मंडळी. आज आपल्याकडे काही नवीन बरेच लोक आहेत. मी थोडक्यात हे सांगतो. मी माधव गोगावले, महाराष्ट्र मंडळ शिकागो 2022 कार्यकारिणीचा सदस्य व बोर्ड ऑफ डिरेक्टर, तसेच इतिहास मंच आणि अध्यात्मपीठाचा सह आयोजक. आपणा सर्वांचे मी इतिहास मंचावर महाराष्ट्र मंडळातर्फे सर्वांचे स्वागत करतो. आणि विशेष म्हणजे आजचे जे आपले पाहुणे आहेत, त्या पाहुण्यांना खास मी त्यांचे आभार मानतो. डॉक्टर संदेश नाईक, त्याचप्रमाणे डॉक्टर बापट यांनी अगदी थोड्या अवधीमध्ये आपलं निमंत्रण स्वीकारलं आणि आपल्या कार्यक्रमासाठी यायचं कबूल केलं. त्याबद्दल मी त्यांचे धन्यवाद मानतो. खरं तर डॉक्टर संदेश नाईक यांची ओळख करून देणं फार कठीण आहे. गेल्या अनेक वर्षात ते ह्या क्षेत्रामध्ये काम करतात. डॉक्टर संदेश नाईक त्यांनी PhD त्यांची बायोमेडिकल रिसर्च मध्ये किंग एडवर्ड मेमोरियल हॉस्पिटलमध्ये केली. त्यानंतर ते वर्क ॲज ए असिस्टंट प्रोफेसर बिफोर ऑब्टेनिंग द पोस्ट डॉक्टरल डिग्री रिसर्च फेलोशिप फ्रॉम नॅशनल इन्स्टिट्यूट ऑफ हेल्थ बेथिसाडा. आणि त्यानंतर मग ते डिरेक्टर ऑफ रिसर्च लॅबोरेटरी पासून सारखं they work at the New York State Department of Health. He has published several research papers and peers, they reviewed those journals. During his doctoral research, his interest in parapsychology and paranormal phenomena earned him great respect. He was invited to perform hypnosis presentation in Europe, Asia, and Canada, and appear on television and radio shows. He has performed 2 shows in Chicago also during about 10 years ago when we are BMM here. Dr. Naik belonged to several international hypnosis societies and organizations. For past 20 years, he has inspired and entertained audience with thousands of performances. He taught hypnosis to doctors, nurses, scientists, students at many prestigious institutes. His hilarious performances have received rave reviews from institutes like MIT, Cornell, and Carnegie Mellon, etc. His stage hypnosis shows is a must to see, and a lot of people, audience, they attended their shows. And he's really funny when it comes to that. For now, I will stop here, and I will request Dr. Naik to take his this satra of this section. Let me share my screen because I'm going to present.
माधव दादा, आधी त्यांना थोडंसं 2 मिनिट बोलू दे आणि मग नंतर शेअर करा स्क्रीन. म्हणजे नाहीतर लोकांना चेहरा नाही दिसणार त्यांचा.
ओके, ठीक आहे.
या, थँक्यू.
डॉक्टर नाईक.
नमस्कार. यू कॅन सी मी होपफुली. नमस्ते. माझं नाव संदेश नाईक आणि मी मूळचा पुणे मुंबईकडचा वाढलो. परंतु माझी फॅमिली हे अँसेस्टर्स सगळे कोकण गोवा या रिजन मधून आले आणि त्यांचे अँसेस्टर्स हे बंगालमधून ट्रान्सफर जवळजवळ 200 वर्षापूर्वी स्थलांतरित झालंय आणि बंगालच्या ऑनरसाठी तिकडे हिप्नॉसिसचे अनेक प्रयोग झाले. त्याचबरोबर अनेक विद्याही डेव्हलप झाल्या. त्या सगळ्या ऑनरसाठी माझं स्टेज नेम समटाइम्स आय यूज ॲज अ डॉक्टर बेंगाली. तर शिकागोतील मराठी मंडळाच्या इतिहास मंचाचा मी अतिशय आभारी आहे की त्यांनी मला ही संधी दिली आणि स्पेशली माधव गोगावले आणि डॉक्टर विकास बापट यांच्या मदतीशिवाय हा प्रयोग झाला नसता. So I'm very thankful to you. Most of my talk will be in English, but I may use one or two couple Marathi sentences. I also encourage the audience that if you want to try some very simple technique, I'm not hypnotizing anybody or you will not go under trance or anything, but just to try a couple simple things. I will give you an opportunity. Also, your questions are welcome. I recommend that you put it in writing. So, because I have cochlear implants, so I don't hear well always. So I will appreciate that. So I can address some of the issues that like. What I would like to do today is, can we get onto the slide just to give you an idea what we are going to do in this program? Is I'm going to show you some of the outline, basic outline of this program. Is I'm going to talk mostly about the historical aspects and the India's contribution to this particular interesting science. Then I will, after the history, I would like to also discuss about various hypnosis techniques, and we can try a couple techniques if you want. Then my emphasis will be to use hypnosis in stress control, quit smoking, studying skills, sports and athletic fields, and how it has been used and all that. So we will discuss all that. There is an interesting story I want to share. About maybe 10, 11 years ago, I was in BMM Chicago conference in your major conference area. And what happened was very interesting, that most of the Indian dignitaries and celebrities coming couldn't get their visa. So I was actually expecting about 100 to 200 audience in my performance. Unfortunately, none of the Indian celebrities like Lalan Sarang, I remember, they couldn't get the visa. So I was overcrowded by more than 1,000 people. And I had a hard time to difficulty in managing, because there were over 100 people came to get hypnotized on the stage. It's all voluntary. However, the show went fairly well and a lot of people liked it. The organizers liked it so much that they couldn't see because of the so many volunteers, and the organizers were busy. So they called me after the performance when they had a special lunch for honoring the volunteers. So I went there second time. After 5 years, the Chicago committee recommended to Detroit committee, and they said, you have to see this performance. So I went back again. So I'm very thankful to Chicago Marathi Mandal to recommending for all these places. I would have never had an opportunity to go and enjoy. The reason I'm saying all this is that if I'm sure some of you have seen my performances, because I have been to Chicago 3-4 times. But if you have not seen it, I recommend at least once in your lifetime You have to see a good hypnosis show. It's not boasting about myself, but it is fascinating science that people who you know, people who are your friends and relatives, they go on the stage and under the hypnotic state, you have never seen the kind of talent or skill or the side that you have ever experienced before. So put it in your bucket list that at least once you should see a good stage hypnosis show. And if possible, try to participate also, because it's very unique experience that you may find from that exposure. So let's a little bit talk about the hypnosis and its historical aspect. How did I start it? This is interesting. I was in college and we went to see Acharya Rajneesh, which is now called, they call it Osho. He had a conference, a shibir in Mount Abu. And we were a couple friends sitting in that. There were some international hypnotists came to see what Osho does is hypnosis or not, or how much of his meditation techniques are correlating to hypnosis. A lot of meditation techniques are very similar to hypnosis techniques. So when we were sitting in his shibir, one of the older gentlemen came to me and introduced me, because there were very few Marathi people. He was Marathi. And guess he was who? He was the cousin of Vinoba Bhave. And he was a hypnotist. So we were chatting, and when I came to know he's a hypnotist, I said, can you show something? He said, well, I'll try. So he hypnotized my friend, आणि त्यांनी तिकडचं गवत उपटलं आणि त्याच्या नाकाला लावला आणि सांगितलं, दिस इज चाफ्याचे फुल आहे म्हणून, दिस अ scented flower. And my friend absolutely vouched that he felt nothing but chafa. And I was surprised that this could ever be possible, because it's not planned or organized or fake something. So I got interested more into it. And then I met several other hypnotists and slowly developed and got into various subjects and all that. So that was how I a little bit started. Coming mostly to the hypnosis in, can I go to the slide one? Next slide. Okay, so let's see what is hypnosis. Before I get into the history, I have to tell you what is not hypnosis. Because a lot of people think hypnosis means you lose your control, you go under somebody's power. It's like my mind as a hypnotist controlling your mind, and that is all wrong. Hypnotists do not have any power or any control or more abilities than anybody else. It's an acquired skill, just like you study computers, you study chemistry. I studied it. So it is an acquired, learned skill. And it's not like Lata Mangeshkar, who was with a gifted power of voice. It's not like that. It's an acquired skill. So keep that in perspective. Second thing, a lot of people are afraid. Some people think that people who go easily into the hypnotic state are somehow weak-willed, nervous-minded type of people. Let me ask you, how many people think they cannot be hypnotized? And that is one of the reasons. A lot of people think they cannot be hypnotized because they think they are strong-willed and nobody can control them and things like that. Now, when I use the word science, let me explain you. American Medical Association, World Health Organization, International Olympic Committee has all approved hypnosis as a legitimate science. It's interesting, in any international sports and athletic events, you cannot participate without taking, if you take any kind of drugs, stimulants, or any chemicals to enhance your performance enhancing drugs, you will be disqualified. And many athletes have lost their medals when afterwards their test came positive. However, hypnosis is completely legal. I used to go right on the track, hypnotize the athlete, remove their fears, anxieties, tension, and boost their competitiveness, or what we call killing instinct, so they can perform their optimal best levels. And what you and I think that we are capable is much, much more than what potentially we are capable. And I learned this from Dr. Erickson. We'll get into that later. He's a father of modern hypnosis. But the point I'm making is that science proved that people who go easily into the hypnotic state are more focused, disciplined personality, people with higher IQ, more disciplined, organized people, because hypnosis requires certain level of concentration, focused attention. You don't have to believe me. You don't need a faith, or you don't need a trust. It's a science. But still, to conduct a scientific experiment, you need to have concentration, discipline, focused abilities, and things like that. So keep that in mind, that your cooperation is unbiased cooperation is needed to get hypnotized or to be able to do that. Another interesting example, a lot of people think that to be a hypnotist can not only control their mind, he can make them do things that he wants or that they don't know. That is not true also. It's very interesting. I performed in many countries. And in some countries, I go to, I did in Russia and in Europe. Say, for example, on the stage, and this actually, I'll tell you an interesting story. Listen to this music. Now, why I'm showing you this, because I played this music in Russian stage, European stage, and in South America, in Trinidad. Now, here's the interesting part. Everybody in Maharashtra, Marathi people know that this is a Launi. Launi means there is a specific type of steps, dance style, and everything. If you are hypnotized and you listen to the music, you will dance, but what you dance is not necessarily Launi or even close to it. However, what happened is in Trinidad, because Trinidad is a mixture of Indian culture, and some of them are exposed to this Launi type. So those who knew what Launi is, they did dance exactly, accurately, very close to what it's supposed to be. Well, though, if you don't know, you may dance, but it has nothing. So the point is, I cannot force you to do something that you already don't know. All hypnosis is self-hypnosis. Let me repeat that. All hypnosis is self-hypnosis. And that is very interesting. The very word hypnosis is the wrong word. Dr. James Braid, we learn a little bit about him in history. He was a Scottish surgeon. He coined this term from a Greek word, hypnos. Hypnos means sleep. Hypnotism means making somebody sleep. What is wrong with it? Everything. In fact, our Sanskrit word or Indian word, sammohan, is very, very more close, appealing to the scientific word. Because as I said, sammohan, swatala, sammohit karnechi vidya. So all hypnosis is, in one way, is self-hypnosis. So keeping that in mind. Now, what is the difference between a hypnotic state and a sleep state? If you see the EEG, ECG, ENG, all the basic parameters of the medical instruments, sleep state and hypnotic state is totally different. But forget about the medical facts. very obvious thing that you and I can understand is person under the sleep do not respond to the external stimulus or questions being asked. If he does, he's not in the sleep. Vice versa, person in the hypnotic state responds to the question answer or the stimulus coming from the external sources. So that is one of the basic differences. Dr. Brad also realized he made a mistake. He tried to change the word, but he was such an authority that time. He was like our Dr. Fauci. Whatever he says was taken for the word. So the word became so popular that his efforts to change it was minimized. So what we are using is the wrong word. There are many wrong concepts that go with the same thing. Now, one thing you have to understand is, if I tell you what is not hypnosis, what is hypnosis? I'm coming to that. Whether you agree or not, we are all conditioned, we are all programmed, we are all hypnotized in one way. Who has done it? Society, education, culture, television, newspaper, media, friends, relatives, Budweiser, Taco Bell, all are constantly programming us. Nothing wrong with it. Say, for example, driving is a subconscious, 90% subconscious habit. And it's good because when there is an emergency, suddenly I push my brake and all that. So it's atavistic, it's a supportive and defensive mechanism. But what happens is that in that computer, in our computer, some of the habits, some of the programming that affects our health, well-being, and happiness, we need to know how to change it. And vice versa. Say you play guitar, you are a basketball player or cricket player. How do you enhance that? So there are two aspects. One, to remove all the elements that affects my health and well-being. And second, my talents and skill, how to enhance it. And that software of this computer, the greatest gift that we all have got. And that's where the hypnosis come into. Hypnosis is a language or understanding of how that programming takes place and how to reprogram or deprogram based on your sleep. So now then comes the question, where exactly it works, or how exactly it works in our brain. Now, there is a recent studies, a lot of research coming in, one especially from the Stanford. They took like 550 subjects, out of which they found 35 subjects were highly hypnotizable, and 28 were very, very difficult to be hypnotized. By the way, let me explain you that. When I go on the stage, I'm not interested in general population, because if you give me 100 people, there are about 15 to 20 people who get hypnotized very quickly. Hypnosis, why? There is no reason why. It is what it is. There are 4 different types of groups. So that we call them somnambulistic, people who very easily go into the hypnotic state. So as a stage hypnotist, my objective is, how do you get to them very quickly? So we bring up on the stage, nobody has patience, especially when I go to the colleges. Within 5-10 minutes, if I don't start the performance, the students get bored and start leaving. So how do you quickly find out who are these people and how to get to them? So once I get them on the stage, then my job becomes easy. So the point I'm making is, in Stanford University, they got this highly hypnotizable people. And what they found out in their brain MR, they gave them different scenarios and tests and all that. They found out certain areas of the brain light up in these and active. And one of them is called dorsolateral prefrontal cortex and insula. What it means is that this particular circuitry of the brain creates some kind of a total absorption into the activity. That's why we in hypnosis, person is not unconscious, but he's absorbed. he's involved, he's focused, and that particular area. Now what scientists are doing is interesting. Once they know what area of the brain is active, they are designing some specific stimulus, so circumventing, so everybody can be benefited. They're also designing special target therapies that can activate those areas of the brain circuitry, so that those who are difficult subject or those who cannot be hypnotized can also be assisted in some way or the other. So that the basic mistake that Dr. Braid made in coining the term is now much more ahead in our science. Now let's get into the history of Indian history, how hypnosis, where it came from, and what are the specific references. The earliest reference that we found is in Bhagavad Purana. We know we have several Puranas. In Bhagavad Purana, you must have seen this Kumbh Mela. The story goes that Lord Vishnu, used the Mohini Astra, and he got rid of the demons and acquired the Amrit to give it to the Devas, which is the good gods. And that he used the Astra called Mohini Astra. Mohini Astra is the same way as it. Now, from pure scientific view, there's nothing like stage hypnosis. That's where we went to check on Osho or Acharya Rajneesh. What he does is a stage hypnosis or not. I'll talk about that later, but that is the earliest experience. Another interesting experience is, just like in Purana, in Atharva Veda, German scholar Max Muller found a specific reference where it says that I'm using my hands and these 10 fingers, and as they are touching it, I'm giving you the command, giving you the suggestion that all your diseases, all your disorders will be vanished. It's a direct reference to the hypnotic techniques. Another interesting India's contribution is we used to have sleep temples. What are the sleep temples? Where you take a deceased person and leave it in a temple for overnight, and in the morning they get cured. Now, this idea sprung up and spread in Greece and in Egypt. They also have sleep temples. They also have similar concepts. So that's very interesting that how, from Indian perspective, all these scientific things or ancient things travel to different parts of the world. Another is in Bhagavad Gita. In Bhagavad Gita, there are several references that recently 3 psychiatrists from Pune published research papers showing the connection and the dialogue between Lord Krishna and Arjuna, including the Vishwarupa Darshana, how it is connected with different hypnosis techniques. And in my personal opinion, is because I work with some of the Ramakrishna Mission people, just like hypnosis can use you to delude and to program, hypnosis also is a tool. You can deprogram, you can remove that ego, just like ego strengthening, you can get rid of the ego and reach to that essential naked energy or self to know who you are. So this is interesting from the perspective of Bhagavad Gita and yoga. In case of yoga particular, I'm sure most of you have done yogas all over the United States. There are many groups and teachers. What is interesting is the last thing in most of the yoga sessions is Shavasana. When Shavasana starts, some people start packing up their yoga mat and take up their bottles and start walking off. They think this is a waste of time. And that is the biggest mistake. Where yoga ends, hypnosis starts. Hypnosis starts with Shavasana because that's the number one thing we start with about progressive relaxation, dissociation, letting yourself into the relaxed, as if it is a dead body. And then we get up with some chanting or some mantras and things like that. So this is very interesting that yoga understood or put the steps towards that direction of using Shavasana and later on to various meditations. Another interesting concept that, especially in Maharashtra, we have is that Namasmaran. Namasmaran is very important from the perspective of, say, entire Warkari tradition. And in the Nancy School of Hypnosis, which was in Paris, they used a term called every way and every day I'll get better and better. The MLQA made it world famous. I have no particular objection with that. If you have a non-believer and it works, and we use many times power of suggestion, so it's a very powerful statement to bring out every way and every day I'll get better and better. It kind of motivates and channelizes all your energy to perform better and better. However, I think Namasmaran by itself has its own contribution, where Namasmaran, say when I was given the mantra of Sri Ganeshanma. So when I'm saying Sri Ganeshanma, I followed it very religiously when I was 7 years old to about 14, 15, then I started becoming rebellious. But what it does is that Ganesh represents, the image represents to me as a protection, as intelligence, as a prosperity. So every time I'm chanting and visualizing Ganesh, I'm allowing my inner subconscious modalities to act in that particular drive. So it's like putting your inner drives in the ready to face the life with openness, with prosperity, intelligence, and things like that. So this, the India's contribution of this various spiritual temples to Namasmaran, to even Manas Puja, which is like a part of visualization. And all these have contributed very much. Now we come to the West, where first you must have heard word mesmerism. Dr. Frank Anton Mesmer, he was a physician in Vienna. And he first saw in some Catholic priest they call exorcism, taking out the demons. And when he studied it on his own, he called it animal magnetism. In other words, it's called mesmerism. This is what he thought. He said that we are all, our body is part of magnets. It's a magnetic fluid. And this whole universe has like a ether type of magnetic resonance or the magnetic field. So when there is a discrepancy between my personal magnetic field and the external magnetic field, I develop disorders. So in order to correct that, he will ask to get touch with the various magnets. He even had a bath filled with iron filings. He also had a tree that he claimed was magnetized, and people started flocking to him crazily. Can we get to the next slide? Well, I'm showing you some of this is Dr. Mesmer. He became so popular that he moved from Vienna to Paris, because Paris was that time the center of the world. So when he reached to Paris, Go to the next slide. We can see some of his experiments he did. He used to get people and they sit in holding the iron filings and all that. Can we move to the next slide? Yeah, look at this. They were all, and they will go in convulsion. They will go in a trance-like state and they will get cured. The funny part was that he became so popular that he was moving in all the aristocratic, noble, rich people in Paris. So the entire medical community was extremely uncomfortable and jealous. So they went to King Louis XVI and they complained. They said, this guy is bogus. This guy is, he's a charlatan. He's scamming the people. So you appoint an investigation. So King Louis XVI appointed a chemist, Lavoisier, who invented oxygen and hydrogen. Then he also called Jean-Baptiste Leroy. He was a prominent physicist in Paris. He also got Dr. Guillotin, who invented the famous guillotine machine. And lastly, as an American, we all know Dr. Benjamin Franklin. He was in Paris. He was also part of the committee. And what, among all the people, Dr. Benjamin Franklin did was absolutely brilliant. You may know that now even FDA uses this term. You heard the term called double-blind control. The origin of that comes from Dr. Benjamin Franklin when he investigated the Mesmer. So what Benjamin Franklin does is he said, okay, first of all, Mesmer refused to cooperate. He said, I don't care what you guys do. I'm not helping you. So they couldn't investigate him directly. So they got hold of some of his disciples or some of the other doctors who were working with him and started investigating the phenomena. So Mesmer had one tree, big tree, he said, is all charged with magnetic energy. And people used to go under the tree and they started getting into the hysteria and all convulsions and used to fall there for hours and then they used to get cured. So what Benjamin Franklin did was he blindfolded the guy. He said, we are going to take you under that tree. But he took under different tree. And he said, this is the tree. And the guy got into convulsion. Vice versa, he told those who get the convulsions under that tree, that another tree, which was never touched by Mesmer or his people, is also charged. And when they went there, they also got the convulsion. So what he proved is what we call double-blind control, and said that it has nothing to do with the tree. It has all power of suggestion, how that whole thing worked. It went so bad that Mesmer was thrown out of, almost had to leave the Paris, went back to Austria, and the whole movement was questioned. One of the challenges that Mesmer faced was from Abbe Feria. He was a priest who came from Goa. Now, here's the interesting thing. Technically, he was a Marathi Konkani guy. He spoke Konkani till age of 15. If you go to the Goa, can we see some slides? I'll show you some of his slides. This is another thing that Mesmer put the people. This is a tub where he will hypnotize people and the people will go in a trance-like state. Next. Okay. Now we'll see some Abbe Feria's pictures. I'll tell you a little bit about his interesting journey. At age of 15, his father and him, they sailed to Lisbon, and he had a connection from the church in Panjim. If you go to Panjim, you will see some of his statues. Can you go to the next slide? Yeah, here is. Yeah, this is from the Goa Panjim, and this is Abbe Fairy, and this also statue is you will see in Goa. So what is the interesting part of Abbe Fairy was he was only 15 when he landed into Lisbon. But he was so brilliant that the king and the queen sponsored him, a Portuguese queen, to go to the church and learn more about it. So he went from Lisbon to Rome and studied theology. He took PhD. And when he was such an eloquent speaker that the Pope invited him into the Sistine Chapel and was very impressed. Now, this is what interesting story about him. He left Rome and came back to Lisbon. When he came back to Lisbon, Mary, the queen, arranged his sermon in a royal chapel. And thousands of dignitaries were there. Abbe Feria went on the podium and suddenly he got frozen. He started sweating. He couldn't speak. His father was sitting down and he realized, oh my God, what is going on? And he had a severe stage fright. So he went under the podium and said in Konkani, Are papio, bhinaka, yo sagla bhajio, kapunde. Basically, what he said was, look, all these people like vegetables, cut them out. When he heard the words coming out of his father's authoritative mind and giving him the visual, he suddenly snapped out of the trance-like state and gave an eloquent speech. When he stepped down, his life changed. He started thinking, what exactly happened to me? And he realized that this is the way that power of suggestion works. This is the way that is internally we can overcome a lot of difficulties and challenges using suggestion, visualization, and all the things. So he started studying under the Mesmer. However, he soon started differentiating between Mesmer because he realized what Mesmer is talking about, magnetic and all that, is not true. And he had a good background of exposure to yoga and meditation. They used to call him as a Eastern yogi. So he emphasized that it has nothing, but it is all internal state. Mesmer was so furious. There is a legend, I don't know how true it is, that he invited him for a duel, that who can hypnotize. And it says that Abbe Feria won. Abbe Feria became so popular. Again, the medical community got jealous of him. They arrested him. They threw him in jail. When he came back, he wrote a book called Lucid Sleep. He used to call it sleep. And then, those who don't know, but Tipu Sultan from Mysore came to seek the help of French to get rid of British. So he joined with Abbe Feria and his father, and they went to the French king because he was connected with them and tried to persuade him to give help. Of course, both, unfortunately, the whole plot failed. And then because the plot fell, Abbe Feria was kind of almost gone from the field. He finally had a stroke and died at the age of 64. But it's interesting that he has a tremendous contribution into the field. He recognized that it was not the magnetism. He wrote a very interesting book, Lucid Sleep, which is actually true. Every day, all of us, as we go into the sleep and as we get out of sleep, we all pass through this trance-like relaxed state for a while. So that's the interesting thing. Then who came into the picture was Sharcott. Sharcott was a neurologist, and he created some interesting experiments. And Dr. James Braid went to see Sharcott. When he see the Sharcott, he recognized that, oh, this is very interesting. Braid was a very prominent surgeon. He developed the first knee surgery and several contributions into his field. So he was very well known. What he was most impressed was that he studied the phenomenon by a book. Somebody gave him the book called Dabistan Maziab. Now, how this Dabistan Maziab came into picture, you must have heard Akbar. Akbar started a religion, Din-e-Ilahi. Now, how he started this Din-e-Ilahi was the most open, gracious religion. But before that, he had a special Ibate Khana, which means a kind of worship place where he invited Tibetan Buddhist, Jewish tradition. He invited Sikhism and collected a lot of wisdom. And the book is called Dabistane Maziab. That book came into the hands of Dr. James Braid. When he started reading some of the techniques that are mentioned about yoga, hypnosis, meditation, he said, wait a second, this is exactly makes sense. And he had a deep respect for it. However, Dr. Braid was atheist, in a kind of agnostic atheist, so he did not bring religion into it. So he emphasized the aspect of hypnosis on progressive relaxation, focused attention. Can we go to the next slide? Show you, he did a lot of work on that. Then came in the picture where Dr. James Braid was in touch with James Asdell and Alliston. Now, here's the interesting thing. These two surgeons, they went to India. And this was a pre-anesthetic era where they performed many, many surgeries. What they did was they had hired some Indian people. They taught them how to hypnotize. And they will take them in a special room, dark room, and make them relax. And it took them hours to hypnotize. But when they are in a nice trance-like state, then the Asdell or Alston came and started operating. And people were shocked that there was no pain. And they did some of the major surgeries. And it was like mesmeric sleep, except it was more kind of organized. So the largest number of pre-anesthetic area surgery took place in India, in Bengal, in British India area. Now, from there, we moved into the next phase. Can we go to the next slide? The American Civil War came, the hypodermic needle was invented, the chemical anesthetic came, the chloroform ether, all that. So the need for hypnosis for anesthetic was gone. However, as the war moved into the First World War, there was a need for shell shock, what we call PTSD now, and anxiety and things like that. Slowly, the university started working on it, and especially in Yale University. Next slide. We will see that Dr. Hull, this is Braid hypnotizing. He had a different techniques, and we'll use one of the techniques similar to that if part-time permits. Next one. So the Sharcott's great contribution was post-hypnotic suggestion. What is post-hypnotic suggestion? I'll give you a simple example. I was in Columbia University, and their auditorium could accommodate about 500 students, but they had 1,500 students. So they said, listen, you have to do 3 shows, but we are very limited time. So the first, I said, we'll do this. in the first performance, give me a little time. So they gave me like hour and 15 minutes. So I hypnotized the people. At the end of the performance, I pulled them out of the trance, but gave them a post-hypnotic suggestion that they all will come and sit in the front row for the next performance. So in the next performance, as soon as I went, I just called them in and started my performance in a few seconds. Since the students knew all the other students, there was no that I planned all this or these are my people, because they knew each other. So there was that particular question was gone. But because of the post-hypnotic suggestion, my performance, because it takes time, initially about 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes to put them in a trance, all that time was saved. And that's an interesting thing. Once you are hypnotized by somebody, you can do what we call post-hypnotic suggestion, and anywhere, anytime, with your free will, with your free choice, you can put yourself in a trance-like relaxed state. And that is the beauty of it. Yes, initially you need efforts, you need little work, you need different techniques, see what works. But once you tune into it, it's like bicycling and swimming. Once you know bicycling and swimming, it's like inner shift. You may not have that much stamina or endurance, that's a different story, but you will never forget in your life how to maintain the balance on the wheel or how to swim. And that is similar to the state of hypnosis. I used to go in exam halls when the students is panic. If he's hypnotized before, put him in a trance. Sometimes they forget because of the stress, anxiety. You can relax them and you can bring their memories back so they perform better. And that is another gift. I'm talking slowly moving in towards the uses of hypnosis. One of the best thing about hypnosis is stress reduction. 10 minutes of good hypnotic state is like 3 hours of sleep. It's so relaxing. Another thing happens is during all my performance, I ask them, how many of you know how long you were in that? Almost 99% people have no clue how long they are, because they are absorbed. That's what I was telling those studies in Stanford. The brain circuitry gets you so absorbed. You almost go beyond time. You have no clue how much time has passed. Or at the most 5 minutes or 10 minutes, they will say, while they were in trance for 45 minutes to an hour. So that's another interesting part of Sharkot, who first coined the term post-hypnotic suggestion. Next. Oh, then came in a picture, Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud sees Sharkot in Paris. He was in Vienna, and he was very interested. He started working on it. One of the problems with Freud was that once he hypnotized a guy and, lady, and she got up and started kissing him. When he did that, Freud was very allergic to this libido issues. So he blamed everything on hypnosis and he started criticizing hypnosis. However, his basic idea of free association and psychoanalysis was precursor in hypnosis. The next slide. I'll tell you an interesting story about Freud. Let's go to the next slide. Next slide. I'll talk about all this a little later. But I went to Freud's house in Vienna. And when I went to the Freud's house in Vienna, if you go in downtown, it's a big building, and the entire house is made a museum. Can we see if those slides are here? Can you move the slide? Yeah. Oh, this is his famous couch, and this is the church. And the next slide, this is his house. So what happens is, if you go in his house, this is all like a museum. There are certificates and some recommendations and all that. So I pointed out to one of the in charge there that I'm not sure you should put that on there. One of the certificates said, "Oh, Freud is such a wonderful, wonderful psychologist to me, therapist to me, that I have been coming to him for 1.5 hours for 3 times a week for the last 21 years, and he absolutely is like a god to me. And I said, wait, please read it carefully. What you said, if anybody is taking treatment for 21 years, 3 times a week, 1.5 hours, what kind of treatment is that? And they didn't like me, but it's interesting. I'm not cutting down Freud. Freud afterwards came back and appreciated hypnosis later. But it's just an interesting fact that he had a love and hate relationship with hypnosis. Next. Then this gentleman, I never met him, but I met his direct disciple who came to India, Dr. Rossi, and he is considered as father of modern hypnosis. Next slide. And he was wheelchaired all his life. He developed a complete different way of hypnotizing people. His method was very indirect. He will not talk. He will just tell stories and anecdotes. And he finds that as more powerful than the direct induction techniques because there's no resistance. And people emulate and people like that much better than the direct induction. And when you tell stories and when you tell role models and anecdotes, that goes into the deeper strands. And as he's talking, he cured many. I studied him a lot. Only my difficulty is he was so genius and creative and resourceful. It's difficult because you can't really follow him because you need that kind of super intelligence, knowledge, information, and all that. So although I respect him, I did follow him. I studied him a lot. I take with certain elements of him, and he's considered one of the geniuses. He was all his life he was on wheelchair, but he still is considered as father of modern hypnosis. Next. Okay, now there are several hypnosis techniques. There is a traditional hypnosis techniques, which is all that. I would like now, since we are already coming towards the end, we can do some of the techniques, or we can go into the try it, those who want to try. So I just was curious, or we can answer some question, whatever you guys decide. What you would like? I can't hear you. Yeah.
माधव दादा मी म्यूट वर आहे.
आणखीन 5-6 मिनिटं तुमच्या स्लाइड संपू थोडा वेळ, and then we can go question answer or practical.
I see. Oh, I know what somebody is asking about the Manchurian Candidate.
Yes,
I know about it. I've seen that movie long back, but I have a whole list. Those who want to see how hypnosis is, it's a post-hypnotic suggestion that has been used there. And I have a whole list of hypnosis movies. There's another interesting movie called The Curse of the Jade Scorpion. It's by Woody Allen. Then there is a movie called Trance. There's a movie called Dead Allen, Old Boy. Those who want, I can send you all these pictures. I'm not against it. It does have some element of truth and interesting fact. But as movies, they always are exaggerated or taken into extreme because they want to make money. So keep that in mind to the extent. Is hypnosis dangerous? Well, I'm not saying for never 100% not, but it also is minimal. There's nothing 100% perfect or safe. Walking in the street, you can get killed, same as similar. But compared to many other drugs and psychiatric treatments, this is the least side effects, after effects, and things. One of the problem with hypnosis I found is that dependency. When I was a lab director, I had a technician, and he will come to me and say, hey, please hypnotize me. And then he loved that state because it is such a, you are out of all the trouble and all the worries and responsibilities. It's like atavistic response. You create like a mother-child bond. So you feel so comfortable. You don't want to come out, and it becomes a dependency. But that's why a good hypnotist will make sure he gives you the power of suggestions to deal with the situation, to address your issues, to remove your inner conflicts, and never create that dependency. That is our training. That's the very important part that hypnotists should do. That because all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. So I need to make sure that he is empowered. He has his ego strengthened. He is able to function what we call post-hypnotic suggestions. We give him in such a way that he becomes one. Any questions?
We can take questions later on. If you want to finish this, then we can go to the questions.
Yeah, I just want to mention about some of the traditional techniques. One of the interesting technique that Erickson used, this is Ericksonian hypnosis, is a guy came to him, he had a Messiah complex. Messiah complex is like, these people they think they are born as a savior. They want to be taking responsibility of saving and assisting others. So he was considering himself to be a prophet. So Erickson talked to him and said, it's so good that you want to help people. So you are born Messiah. So do you know you are the Christ coming back, right? He said, yes. You know what Christ's profession was? He said, yes, he was a carpenter. You know what? I have friends who will help you to make some benches and desks, and we can donate it to the school. And he put them in a carpentry shop, and they built like 25, 30 desks and benches and donated. By the time he got into that, all his Messiah complex was gone. So it's interesting how Erickson used his mental issue and put it into practical reality and put him out of the whole thing. Then there are several cognitive behavioral is more like a psychotherapy type of technique. One of the interesting part is that what Erickson said, Macbeth, anybody who comes to me or a good hypnotist, we don't enforce our ideas or our model of work with him. First thing Erickson said is sit with them, deal with them, and find out where they are at. Because you may have all the lofty ideas and techniques and all that. Nothing is going to work unless you know where your patient or your client or your one who you give therapy comes from. And that then combine that with his logic and his behavior to put it into the hypnosis. Next is a regression hypnotherapy. You can go back into the incidences that affected you as a child, and you can desensitize it. That's another thing. A lot of people ask, is there a past life? I don't know. I have done a lot of interesting experiments. If time permits, I'll share with you. But as a scientist, I'm open to all the possibilities. And there are evidences, there are interesting research about it, what they call thanatology. And there are evidences of people who have near-death experiences. They have a similar experience through hypnosis also. So it's a complex, esoteric area. I don't want to come. Solution-focused hypnotherapy is when we exclusively focus on one objective. And I used to do quit smoking or lose weight. And Dr. Bapat and a couple other Albany friends came to my session where we exclusively focus on, say, in case of smoking, how to create aversion. Because smoking nobody is born as a smoker. It is an forced habit. Nobody enjoyed smoking first. So if we reach to that natural state, then smoking is much easier to pull out because it's unnatural. With food, it's slightly complicated because food is a part of daily routine. But these are all the focused, solution-based, how to lose that. Another interesting fact is about losing weight is that San Francisco group found certain areas of the brain, especially they found it posterior cingulata cortex, and that particular area has a direct implication on your physiological functions. So in a hypnotic state, or even those who don't have the opportunity or want to, while going into the sleep, if you see yourself jogging, running in an exactly accomplished, beautiful, healthy self, and just give the suggestion and visual that also will trigger your enzymes, hormones, and change your metabolic activities to fit into that norm. Because hypnotic state is basically the most receptive state. And if you focus rightly, they're part of the brain that image and the enzymes, hormones, and all the neuropeptides, they are accepting your perfectly accomplished, beautiful, healthy self as your true reality. And they will start restructuring your entire metabolic activities. So while 6, 7, 8 hours of your sleep will be triggered appropriately to your benefit of losing weight. This sounds crazy, but it's very interesting, and it has a lot of scientific studies there. Last is neuro-linguistic programming. It's a complete different pattern and format. There are some debates going on about it, but I personally think whatever works, use it, and it's interesting. Next. Okay, now these are all the different hypnosis techniques. I rather would like to start something very quick if you want to try, because this is one technique that is Dr. Brad used, and then I met Spiegel, not one in San Francisco, one in New York. That is his father. He developed what we call Spiegel Steps. So this is what you do. If you have an iPhone or any of your cell phone, open your camera and put it on a self thing. Then open your eyelids. And with the eyelids open, roll your eyeballs as high as you can. And if you think, first put your finger on the camera button, go as high as you can with the eyelids, as if something has been kept at the top of your head. You're looking with eyelids open and eyeballs rolled up, and take a picture and see if your eyeballs are gone above, say, almost like 90% or 80%, you can't see your eyeballs. That means you are a good hypnotic subject, according to Spiegel. There are many other criteria. I don't 100% agree with it, but it's a very crude way. So just check it out if you can. It's an interesting way to see what level you are at. And the less you can roll your eyes, less chances that you are in that what we call somnambulistic state, 4th stage of hypnosis. Another interesting part you can see, I don't know if you can see me. Try this technique. Raise, if you can stand up if you can, and make sure you have enough room from each other. There's nothing you can bang on to. And then what you can do is raise your, I don't know if you can see me. I'll sit and do it. Raise your feet. You can do even sitting also, but just make sure you have enough room. I don't have enough room, but I'll just show you a simple technique. And try this. So wait, let me do this first. And then, because I don't want to mess you up. So what I'm doing is I'm raising my finger, raising my hand, raising my finger. I hope you can see all me. And then I will say 1, 2, 3. You go as far as back as you can go and put your finger where you reach. Wherever you reach, remember that point. Remember that point, tattoo that point, focus on that point, and come back. Okay, let's do that first. Raise your hand like this. Put the finger. Okay, make sure you're not stumbling on anything. And when I say 1, 2, 3, go as far as back as you can. Go as far as back as you can. Move your head and remember the point you went. Okay, very good. Remember the point. Come back. Come back. Come back. Okay, put your hands down. Put your hands down. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Now, this time, don't do anything. Just mentally visualize that when I say 1, 2, 3, you do the same thing, but this time you went much further ahead. Okay, just mentally think, visualize yourself doing exactly same thing. However, don't actually do it, just use the mental imagery. 1, 2, and 3. See yourself going way back and exceeding the point that you reached. Come back. Put your hand down. Now, open your eyes. Raise your finger. Raise your hand now. This time, actually raise your hand like that. And then 1, 2, 3. Go! Go, 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 go. Now, most of you, I don't know everybody, I can't see anybody here from this, but you will see that there is a difference between the first and the second that you reached. And even if it could be 10%, 5%, could be more.
Yeah,
I don't know because I'm not there. But why that in my studies I found at least more than 60% people found about anywhere from 10 to 50% difference. And the reason is that the second time we used a power of suggestion and power of visualization. These two are motivating factors that used in extending your potential. There's an experiment that was done. 3 groups of students who never played basketball were brought into the basketball court. One was given a trainer. One was told, just go and shoot. Third was told that every time anybody makes a basket, you visualize as if you have done it. And it's interesting that the second best were the visualized people. Every time we teach this is, if you are, say, a diver, especially in Olympics, they take 3.5 somersaults. One small single breath, you not align, you're out of the competition because it's so fierce. So they train all the athletes to be precise. And how they train it? By using guided visualization. It's interesting that in Sochi Olympics, the advisors told Putin that don't use Sochi as a Winter Olympics because Sochi do not get enough snow. But Putin was adamant. Putin said, absolutely not. I want to show the world how beautiful and what Sochi is. So he built all the Olympic Village. And as usual, the snow was not there. So he bought all the snow machines, but it was not there. So all the psychologists, sports psychologists got together and said, how we solve this problem? So they used nothing but power of visualization, guided imagery, power of suggestion, almost like hypnosis techniques, basic elements, and train their athletes in no snow zone where how to perform as if it is snow. And that is very, very interesting that we if assume we are in the snow, our body temperature changes, our entire physiological processes changes. Mind is very powerful. So with all that, I don't know, one more technique if you want to try, just a simple technique. Raise your hand, fingers like this, and put it all like that. Put it together and bring it to your eye level. Bring it towards your eye level and raise it about, increase it about, say, 1.5, 2 feet away. And then focus on these two fingers. Focus on these two fingers, imagine. And then make sure you are nice and tight with the two palms holding to each other. Imagine these two fingers. They are going through your eyes or eye levels, and they are like two magnets. As you bring the entire joint slowly and gently together, these two fingers are like two magnets. They're coming together. As you are bringing it together, closer to your eyes, they are getting closer and closer. The harder you try to remove them or separate them, they get closer and closer. As you bring closer and closer, they almost touch to each other. And that's interesting. This is called power of suggestion, power of visualization, and things like that. There are hundreds of different techniques. During my show, I do perform some initial preliminary techniques to use the different things. Now, those who are very, very critical people, misdirection works is like we tell them that you start counting from 200 backwards every time you subtract first 2, then number 3. And every subtraction tells I'm getting more and more relaxed or more. And so your critical analytical mind get caught up into counting, reverse counting, and your body starts relaxing. So these are all different techniques. I don't want to talk about this character because it's kind of dangerous. We hold things. I used to do some animal hypnosis where you take a rabbit, but it's interesting in animals. The more you hypnotize them, the less they become prone to hypnosis. In humans, it's opposite. The more you try it, the more you get accustomed to the state. And because for animal, it is a fear-based response. In human, it is a choice. And that's a basic difference. Next. I told these are all the different uses of hypnosis: weight loss, fears, phobias, anxieties, stress management, pain management, both physical and emotional aspect of the pain, sports performances, various medical use. Now, I don't want to stretch it to claim something outrageous that hypnosis cures cancer, hypnosis cures, there's with some people do, I don't. But what hypnosis can do is very interesting, as every disease disorder, no matter what pure physical, has some mental impact. So you can reduce the anxiety. Even there are techniques, we call it post-operative hypnosis techniques, so that your recovery becomes faster. There are pre-hypnotic techniques for the surgery, so your anxiety tension goes down. So there is everywhere there is a mental involvement, you can reduce it. I want to end with one small story that when I first involved in hypnosis was one of my friend's friend had a kidney disease. And his parents said, listen, we don't have money, we don't have resources. Besides, on those days, I'm talking 30, 40 years ago, the survival rate and all that was very low. So we don't want to go through the transplant. So can you do something? I said, I will try. So I looked into many techniques, many ideas. Those times they were like, your white blood cells, and they are like Pac-Man and all kinds of stuff. And I wrote to several hypnotists and asked their ideas. So I I tried different techniques, and he was very supportive, very cooperative. What happened was, after about 2-3 months, he stopped coming, and it's okay. I don't know. So after about 6 months, his parents came to my house and said he died. And I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I did the best." He said, "Actually, no. I want to tell you something." He told us that during this entire 4 or 5 years, as he was going down, the best of the best time he spent was with you. I said, "Really?" He said, "Yes." He was so happy that even if it didn't work, it was like a solace, like a console, like a soul comfort to him. And that made my day. That I was very happy. It's not that we are here for to cure every disease, but the quality of life that was improved, even for a short time, was a great blessing to him. And for me, it was an interesting feedback. So with that, I want to say thank you to Madhav, thank you to all of them. This is my information. And I do go to all universities, colleges. If you have any organization, something, feel free. Thank you so much.